Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Burns. I am a project manager with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and we're here tonight for the virtual public informational meeting for project number 134-150, replacement of bridge number 6198 in the town of Stafford. As I said, my name is Mark Burns, and I'm a project manager in the Federal Local Bridge Program. That is my contact information on this slide. The goals for tonight's meeting will be interacting with the project team, explaining the Federal Local Bridge Design Managed by State or DMS program, welcome remarks by the town of Stafford, introductions of the project team, formal presentation of the design process, which will include explaining the condition of the existing bridge and defining the purpose and need for the project, and our recommendation of a viable proposal. Please keep in mind that our design plans are only at a 30% completion point. And following the formal presentation will be an open forum for questions and answers. If you would like to ask a question, you can reach us by the following ways. Email at dot-flbp@ct.gov, by phone at 860-594-2020. This will be a voicemail, or in the Zoom Q&A live chat. Please note the Zoom Q&A will only be open during the live presentation. You can also view the project webpage at portal.ct.gov/DOT Stafford 134-150. The comment period will be open through December 22nd. I'm now required to read this slide on Title VI Civil Rights. No person on the basis of race, color, or national origin be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We highly encourage you to fill out the voluntary post-meeting survey, also located at the project webpage. If you have any further questions about civil rights information, you can reach it from this webpage as well. A recording of the formal presentation will be posted to YouTube after the live event. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, will also be made available. The funding for this project is through the Federal Local Bridge Program through the Design Managed by State or DMS program. This, in the traditional Federal Local Bridge Program, the funding is an 80% federal reimbursement with 20% town funds for design, rights of way, and construction. In the DMS program, the design, rights of way, and construction phases are funded with 80% federal and 20% state funds. Design, construction, and rights of way are at zero cost to the towns. And design is a full partnership and coordination with the town. The goals of our DMS program were to provide a streamlined approach to design using our DOT resources and to aid the towns to keep their bridges in a state of good repair. Our intent was also to decrease typical design time from 5 years to 24 to 36 months, and to utilize accelerated bridge or ABC construction techniques to shorten construction durations. It was also the intention to increase the number of municipal projects delivered to construction each year. We'll now turn it over to the first selectman from the town of Stafford to make some remarks.
Thanks, Mark. My name is Sal Titus. I'm the first selectman here in Stafford. I'd like to thank everyone for participating in tonight's public information meeting for the Whispering Pines Bridge. I'd like to thank the folks at CHA companies and Connecticut DOT for their hard work designing and administering this bridge replacement project, as well as our staff in the Department of Public Works for continuing to work on improving our aging infrastructure. Please ensure that you communicate any questions or concerns regarding this project to us. This is your opportunity to get your questions answered. There will be contact information for Connecticut DOT provided at the end of the presentation. They will forward your questions to the appropriate parties during the comment period. At this time, I'll turn the presentation back over to Mark from Connecticut DOT.
Thank you, Sal. I'll now introduce the rest of the project team. To the left-hand side of the screen is Bart Sweeney, our manager, or otherwise known as Division Chief of the Bridge Unit. Next to him is Derek Lassard, our Principal Engineer. As I said, my name is Mark Burns. To my right is James Barrows, Project Engineer. Also with us is Zach Garano from the Office of Rights of Way. And then from our consultant liaison engineering firm, Clough Harbor Associates is Anand Seshadri, project manager, and Rob Baylor, project engineer. I will now quick run through some of the structural elements so you have a better understanding of what we are discussing this evening. The existing bridge is a culvert. And as you can see, the culvert is basically a very large pipe which the travelway drives over as it conveys the stream underneath the road. So you have your roadway, your pipe, and then at the outlet of the pipe will be an end wall and wing walls to prevent any additional erosion from incoming flow. It's also to divert flow into more of a natural stream. The bridge is also based on various condition ratings from 9 to 0, 9 being in the best condition and 0 being close to traffic. I will now turn it over to Rob so we can begin the formal presentation. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. As Mark mentioned, my name is Rob Baylor and I'm with CHA. We are the consultant liaison engineer for the project. As Mark mentioned, this is for project 134-150 in the town of Stafford. Here you can see on this project location map, bridge 6198 right in the center of the screen. This is the subject bridge for the project. Through this area of the project, Whispering Pines Road runs north to south. Still Brook runs underneath the bridge from the east to the west and drains into State Line Pond, which is just to the west of the bridge. The bridge is located approximately 250 feet to the north of Stony Lane, which is just to the south of the bridge. And on the north side of the bridge, there's a couple other roadways, Maple Road, Hemlock Road. There's about 35 residences to the north of the bridge, all of which are accessed through Whispering Pines Road only. There is no other access road to those properties north of the bridge. Next slide. Looking at some existing information on the current bridge that's there now. In this plan, you can see north is pointing to the right. So the roadway is aligned horizontally on the page here. The stream runs from east to west, so from the bottom of the page to the top of the page. The existing roadway is 24 feet in width, and that consists of 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, northbound and southbound. And along the roadway on both sides of the bridge is a metal beam rail supported by wood posts. Traveling this roadway on a daily basis is approximately 220 vehicles per day. The posted speed limit on the roadway is 20 miles an hour. Based on some traffic studies we did, the 85th percentile speed is 24 miles per hour. And this roadway, Whispering Pines Road, is classified as an urban local road. Next slide. A little more existing information on the bridge. It was constructed in 1975, so it makes the bridge about 47 years old. Looking at the elevation view on the bottom left of the screen, you can see the bridge consists of 3 pipe culverts. Each of those are approximately 6 feet wide and 4 feet tall. So that results in a total structure length of about 20 feet. These pipes are asphalt coated corrugated metal pipe arches. And on top of those is 2 feet of fill, and then the roadways on top of that. As you can see in the cross section view on the lower right, the pipes themselves are about 40 feet in length. And as I mentioned before, the roadway width is 24 feet. Looking at hydraulics, the existing hydraulics for this bridge are inadequate. The stream overtops the roadway during the 100-year design storm. And this bridge is currently not posted for any weight restrictions at this time. Next slide. Looking at the existing condition ratings of the bridge, as Mark described to us previously, bridges are rated on a condition scale from 0 to 9, with 9 being the best. For this bridge, the overlay is rated in good condition. That's a 7. The railing is rated in poor condition at a 4. So the bridge rail does not meet current safety standards. The channel and channel protection of Still Brook is in satisfactory condition, and the culvert is rated in serious condition. And these condition ratings are all based on a DOT inspection report from September of 2021. Next slide. I'm going to go through a couple slides of pictures here just to give everyone a overview of the site. Starting at the top left is the inlet of the culvert. This is on the east side of the roadway. Photo to the right of that is the outlet, so the west side of the road. And then the lower left picture is looking north over the bridge. So along the roadway, as you can see, there's metal beam guide rail on both sides of the road. And I also want to mention here that on the west side, there is overhead utilities, and there's also underground utilities that run along the west side of the roadway. Last picture here on the lower right is looking south over the bridge. Again, you can see the guide rail system, and then beyond the roadway there is South Road, which is just beyond the bridge. Next slide. Top left picture is a photo of Maple Road. That's about 150 feet to the north of the bridge. It's a private road. Photo to the right of that is a typical guide rail. That's a photo of the guide rail on the east side of the road. As you can see, it's in pretty poor condition. The wooden posts are bent and starting to rot out. Photo on the lower left is a photo of the eastern roadway embankment. This is a typical condition. As you can see here, there's wetlands pretty close to the roadway, and that's also the case on the west side of the road. Excuse me. Lower right photo is a photo at the inlet of the bridge. As you can see here, debris tends to collect at the inlet. This can result in some damage to the culvert pipes. You can see some denting there in them. Slide. Last slide of pictures here. Top left one is a typical condition of the inside of the culvert. So as you can see here, there's rust along the invert, which is the bottom of the culvert, up to the water surface elevation. Photo to the right of that. This is a picture at the center culvert. The invert of the culvert has heaved up. Photo to the lower left and lower right. These are pictures of the downstream and upstream channel respectively. So the west and east side. As you can see in the lower left photo, there's a state line pond in the background. And again, there's significant wetlands throughout this area. And then photo on the lower right is looking upstream there. Slide. So taking a look at the project's purpose and need, as I mentioned before, the bridge was constructed in 1975. So it's 47 years old, and it's starting to show its age. So again, as I mentioned, the culvert is rated in serious condition due to the extensive section loss and perforations in the culvert pipes. The approach rail system doesn't meet safety standards. And from a hydraulic standpoint, it's inadequate. The stream overtops the roadway during the 100-year design storm. So as part of this project, we're proposing a full bridge replacement. I also want to note here that despite all the deficiencies that we've noted with the existing bridge, it is currently safe for the traveling public. It's inspected on a regular basis by Connecticut DOT. And so at this point, it is currently safe for traversing. Next slide, please. Some improvements that we'd like to make as part of the project. As I said, a full bridge replacement is what we'd like to propose with a 75-year service life and a bridge that requires minimal maintenance for the town. We'd like to maintain the existing roadway width of 24 feet. Along both sides of the roadway, we would propose to install a open bridge rail system that meets crash standards. We'd also like to improve hydraulic performance to try and mitigate roadway overtopping. Also to the north of the bridge, Whispering Pines Road is their only access to those residences, so we need to maintain that access during construction. It's one of our goals. We'd also like to minimize the impacts to those properties. We recognize that construction is going to cause some impacts, so we'd like to minimize that as much as we can and replace the bridge quickly. And then we'd also like to improve aesthetics by using a simulating stone concrete form liner on the exposed concrete surfaces. As you can see in the lower left and lower right photos, the form liner along the concrete. And you can also see a similar bridge rail system that we would propose for this project as well. Next slide. Here's a plan of the proposed bridge. So we're proposing a box culvert for the new structure. This plan here is shown with north to the pointing to the right. So the roadway is aligned horizontally on the page, shown in yellow. The bridge is indicated in orange in the center there. The bridge will be constructed in the same location as the current bridge. That bridge will provide for a 24-foot roadway width to maintain the existing. At all four corners of the bridge, we are proposing wing walls along the edge of the roadway. Those will help support the approach roadway embankments. And then at all four corners, we'd also propose to install metal beam guide rail to improve the safety of the current roadway. Next slide. Here's an elevation view of the proposed bridge. So as I said, we're proposing a box culvert. So this box culvert is shown here with a 5-foot vertical rise and a 22-foot clear span. On top of the invert of the culvert is shown in green there is natural stream bed material that'll help facilitate fish passage. As I mentioned before, also the wing walls will be constructed at all four corners of the bridge. Those are shown in gray here. Those will help support the roadway embankment. And then at the top of the bridge is the open bridge rail shown in orange. And then either side there is shown in pink is the metal beam approach guide rail. The bridge will be constructed on spread footings. And then I also want to mention here that one of our goals was to improve hydraulic performance. So the proposed bridge will be able to pass the 100-year storm without overtopping the roadway. Next slide. Here's a section of the proposed box culvert. So a section is basically taking a slice through the bridge and looking along the roadway. So as you can see here, again, the 24-foot proposed curb to curb width on either side of the roadway would be the metal beam rail or the open bridge rail system along the bridge. Shown in yellow there is the proposed roadway. So that'd be that asphalt. That would be constructed on top of the culvert, which is shown in orange. Below that, and in blue is the stream that runs through the channel. In green is the natural stream bed material that I mentioned previously, And then that culvert again will be built on a foundation of cutoff walls, and those are there to help prevent scour. Next slide. All right, so looking at the roadway plan, again, north is pointing to the right. So the Whispering Pines Road is lined horizontally on the page. The total construction limits of roadway reconstruction that we're proposing is about 325 feet. That's shown there in yellow. Still Brook there is shown in blue, which runs from the bottom of the page to the top into State Line Pond. The bridge is shown in the center in orange. Along both sides of the roadway, you can see in green there, there'll be some grading associated with the roadway improvements. And then, as I mentioned, about 325 feet of roadway full depth pavement reconstruction. And that'll be pretty much from the intersection with Stony Lane and then up to the Maple Road intersection. Next slide. Looking at the proposed roadway profile. So on the right here, you can see the dark bold black line is the proposed roadway. And then the dashed line is the existing roadway profile. So we are proposing to raise the profile about 8 inches along this section of the roadway. As I mentioned before, the existing roadway is overtopped by the stream during the 100-year storm. And in order to mitigate that in the proposed bridge, so that there's no overtopping, we're proposing the box culvert with a shallow top slab, and then also raising the low chord of the bridge and raising the roadway by about 8 inches. And that'll help pass the 100-year storm without overtopping the road. Next slide. So how do we get this all constructed? As I mentioned before, there's about 35 residences to the north of the bridge, which utilize Whispering Pines Road to access those properties. There's no other means of access, so during construction, we need to maintain the roadway to be open. In order to do that, we'll need to utilize stage construction. So during each of these stages, there'll be alternating one-way traffic to allow vehicles traveling both in the northbound and southbound directions. So starting with stage 1 on the top there, there'll be some temporary off-peak alternating one-way traffic on the west side of the road. This will allow the contractor access on the east side to relocate the overhead and underground utilities that are currently on the west side. So we'll relocate them to the east. This will give the contractor plenty of room to conduct all the construction in the following stages. Moving to stage 2, we're going to swap traffic back to or onto the other side of the roadway. So alternating one-way traffic on the east side. We'll set up some temporary barriers to protect the work zone. The contractor will have access to the west side of the bridge. And during this stage, they'll be able to widen the existing roadway temporarily to help facilitate the stage construction, and then also install a portion of a temporary bypass pipe, which will facilitate water during construction. Slide. Stage 3, the plan would be to swap traffic back to the west side of the road with alternating one-way traffic. Again, temporary barriers to protect traffic from the work zone. The work zone will be on the east side of the bridge, so the contractor will then be able to finish constructing the temporary bypass pipe and get water flowing through that. And then they'll be able to remove the eastern portion of the existing bridge and construct the eastern portion of the proposed bridge, the proposed wing walls on the east side, and the approach guide rail and all that. Once that's complete, The contractor will then be able to move to stage 4 and then flip traffic again back to the east side. This will give them access to the west side of the bridge again, and they'll be able to remove and replace the culvert on that side, install the box culvert on the west side with the wing walls and the approach guide rail. Once that is complete, the contractor will be able to finish all of the roadway reconstruction leading up to the bridge and move utilities back to the west side and wrap up the project from there. Slide. So looking at impacts, as far as utilities go, I described in the previous slides that the utilities would have to be temporarily relocated to the east side of the road, and then they'll be relocated back to approximately their current location on the west side. As far as environmental impacts, we expect tree clearing along both sides of the roadway to facilitate construction. There will also be temporary and permanent wetland impacts and watercourse impacts as part of the bridge replacement. At this time, we're anticipating a Town of Stafford inland wetland permit, also a flood management certification, and a U.S. Army Corps self-verification permit. Next slide, please. Here we're showing the rights-of-way impact plan. So as part of construction, there will be some minor impacts to the abutting properties. As we are showing here, again, the roadway is aligned horizontally, north is to the right. So the 4 abutting properties at each corner of the bridge, I'm going to walk through each of those. So starting with the property at the top left, this is the southwest corner of the bridge. There'll be a temporary construction easement shown in blue there. To the right of that, at the northwest of the bridge, there'll be another temporary construction easement. Moving to the lower left property, this is at the southeast of the bridge. This property also will have a temporary construction easement. There'll also be a partial take near the vicinity of the proposed bridge. And then there'll be some grading easements to help support the proposed roadway, and also have an easement for the installation of guide rail. Moving to the right of that is the property at the northeast of the bridge. Again, this property will also have a temporary construction easement, a small partial take just in the vicinity of the bridge there, and also an easement to grade for the support and safety of the highway. So the purpose of the 2 small partial takes near the bridge on the east side of the road, these are just to ensure that the proposed bridge is constructed within the town right-of-way. And then the purpose of the temporary construction easements, those are to allow contractor access to the project area during construction. And then after the project is complete, those areas will be restored back to the property owners. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Zach with DOT Rights of Way, and he's going to walk us through the acquisition process. So Zach.
Thank you, Rob.
It's all yours.
Thanks. My internet just about cut out. So like Rob said, my name is Zachary Garino. I'm the project coordinator of the department's division of rights of way. Our office is responsible for acquiring the property rights needed for transportation projects. The proposed project design requires acquisition of property rights, like Rob mentioned. So I'd like to give a brief overview of the department's right-of-way acquisition process. Please keep in mind that the specific impacts are still being finalized and may change as the design progresses. Any required property rights will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes sections 13A73 and 13A98E. When there is federal money used in any aspect of a project, the department must adhere to the Uniform Act. Change the slide. Okay. Once the design has progressed to a point where we are ready to begin the acquisition process, each affected property owner will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. At that point, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights and use that value to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer will be sent to the property owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent from our office will be available to meet with the property owner and explain the project, go over the specific impact to their property, and explain the state's offer. The property owner will have a reasonable amount of time, typically 30 days, to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. When an agreement is reached, the department will prepare all the necessary paperwork to record the deed and property map on the town land records. However, if an agreement cannot be reached, in order to keep on schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. In that event, the state files a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court along with a monetary deposit and the amount of the state's offer. The owner would have 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they felt that the state's offer was inadequate. Whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the monetary deposit in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner. It's important to note that the state only acquires property rights that are needed for the project. And if there's any questions specific to the right-of-way process, I can answer them after the presentation. Thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Rob.
Thanks, Zach. One last slide here for me. I just wanted to briefly go over the project schedule and cost. So currently we are anticipating construction to start in spring of 2025. Construction duration will be approximately 8 months. And at this point, we're anticipating the construction cost to be about 1.8 million to replace the bridge. As Mark mentioned early on in the presentation, as part of the DMS program, 80% of the cost will be covered by federal funds, and the remaining cost will be covered by the state. So there'll be no cost to the town as part of this bridge replacement project. Just to note also, the cost and schedule are preliminary at this point, and they're subject to change. As Mark said, the plans are only developed to a 30% completion, so there is some potential for some change. So at this point, I will turn it back to Mark. We really appreciate everyone joining us tonight and taking the opportunity to learn about the project. And Mark will now walk us through question and answer, where everyone will have the chance to provide input.
Great, thank you, Rob. And as Rob said, we'll now open it to questions during the live event. So you can reach us by email, by phone, or right in the Zoom chat. And again, we encourage you to visit the project webpage and to fill out the voluntary survey. Great. We have a question from Dan Carr, Stafford Fire Chief. During your temporary bridge access, we need load capacity to be 68,000 pounds for water tenders, fire engines, and a ladder truck to be able to cross to facilitate fire protection. Also, to help fire protection in the area for the future, could you include the installation of a drafting fire hydrant on the downstream side of the bridge? This would provide greater life safety and property protection in the neighborhood around the bridge. Currently, there is no access to water to fight fires in the area without multiple water tenders to haul in the area. Thank you, Dan. CHA, if you could please answer that question.
Thanks, Dan. We appreciate that comment. That's definitely something we can look into as far as providing access during construction. The contractor will be obligated to maintain access, especially for emergency vehicles. And then as far as providing a drafting fire hydrant on the downstream side, we can certainly work with the town to provide that.
Great, Rob. Thank you. We'll leave the Q&A open for a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Again, if you could please visit the project webpage and fill out the survey, it'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, everyone, I don't think we have any further questions. Once again, we appreciate your time to come and view our presentation. And if you could please visit the webpage to fill out the survey. And if you have any questions beyond tonight, please feel free to send us an email or to reach out to the town and they will relay the questions to us as well. Once again, we thank you for coming and have a pleasant evening. Goodbye.